I know he had bad fights against Gilbert and Bilal, um, but outside of that, I mean, he's still really like what he did to Holland and everything else. Like he still got it. He really hasn't like missed a step and missed a beat. Like he still can hang with all these young guns coming up.
Especially in the striking, he's still one of the best in the sport, I would think, right?
Like I was wanting to stand and strike against Santos, but this guy, I think I'm going to just try to grapple him and see, what he has on the ground because I don't think he's really grappled anybody.
Oh, there he is. What's up, man?
Not much. I'm actually heading to the PI right now.
Awesome, man. You gonna getting the training in or sort of helping Wonderboy out?
Um, Training for me right now, Wonder Boy is done. We're just gonna focus on the weight cut, press conference, yada yada yada, all of that. So
Yeah, I guess we're so close now that all that stuff's done, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke, right? You're in Vegas, you're in town for UFC 296. I would imagine that's the main reason you're gonna be there to sort of help Wonderboy out throughout the process of the fight. Is that accurate?
Yeah, usually I'll go out to Wonder Boy's fights because I'm a bigger 145, and so I'm like the same height as most of his opponents.
Yeah,
So like it's just good to move with somebody that's gonna have a similar range and reach that your opponent's gonna have.
right.
Um, and then it's different than having like a coach. Like I'm a teammate. I'm a different role, so I kind of understand what he's going through and the emotions and everything, and so I know how to
Sure.
kind of help navigate that. Not that he needs much. It's just nice to have a friend in town, through the whole thing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you've been asked about the fight, man, but as a fan, it's kind of hard to not look at the fight and be excited about it, right? As someone who trains with the guy, I really do. I would love to get your thoughts on the fight, right? Again, I'm sure you've been asked a bunch of times, but what do you make of it in a general sense? Obviously, it stands out.
I
It's a fun
think a
fight.
lot of people are counting him out because of his age, because of who Rachmanov is, and everything like that. But
Sure.
I think it's a lot closer than the odds and what people are giving credit. If you look at the nitty gritty, like most of Shavkat's fights have been in the smaller cage. Most of his fights have been in the apex.
Yeah.
Um, he struggled with Jeff Neal because Jeff Neal was in the bigger cage. And a lot of Shavkat's strategy is he marches guys down to the cage, he clinches, he'll either trip or do some knees and elbows, and then backs out and you know rinse and repeats. With Neal, he had a little bit harder time getting him to the cage and implementing that game plan, and there was times when he looked really human.
Mhm.
And so I think with Wonder Boy being such a movement specialist and being in a big cage, I think there's several little minute advantages that Wonder Boy's got that people haven't looked at in the fight and broken it down. And these are like little things that I've looked at and looked into and all of Shavkat's things when I was, preparing to be like Shavkat for, this fight camp.
Wonderboy is obviously a veteran in the game, right? I mean, perhaps a legend when it's all said and done. He's faced a lot of tough guys. This has to be one of his tougher fights, right? I mean, does he know that? I mean, do you feel that way as well? Because I would think it is.
Definitely, I think it's one of his tougher fights, but I mean, at a certain point, they're all tough.
Yeah,
Like
he's been
every
at the
every
top for
single
so
guy
long.
is every single guy is so good. I mean, he had Johnny Hendricks when Johnny Hendricks was, still in his prime, and he made short work of Hendricks. He's had Rory McDonald when Rory McDonald was, at his all time high and best, and you
Yeah.
saw the type of fight that he had with Rory McDonald, and Rory was a dangerous dude, back then as well, and so. Um, I know he had bad fights against Gilbert and Bilal, um, but outside of that, I mean, he's still really like what he did to Holland and everything else. Like he still got it. He really hasn't like missed a step and missed a beat. Like he still can hang with all these young guns coming up.
Especially in the striking, he's still one of the best in the sport, I would think, right? Obviously, you train at Upstate Karate, right, with Ray Thompson, his father. You know, having a guy like that around you, and you know, for a camp like this to help you prep for a fight, you know, a guy that you have familiarity with, more specifically, it's got to be nice to go to war with a guy like that as opposed to someone where that's not the case, right? Where it's like, I kind of know this guy because you said you were close to the Ray Thompson, right? So I would imagine there's a bit of a more of a comfort and an
Yeah,
advantage.
Coach T is like a second dad,
Yeah.
and so like in the corner, uh, if you're feigning and he knows like all those things, like he knows what like to, and he's got such a sharp eye for me as a fighter and for my opponent and the things that my opponent's doing, and so he's able to get in my head and be like, look, like quit being a wuss and get in there and do this, that, and that. And so he's able to like get me out of, negative headspaces and things like that. So it's good having him in the corner and having that sort of relationship. I've been lucky in that every place I've lived, I've had a coach like that, and I've been able to like really develop that relationship. Um, but yeah, Coach T is like for the last 4 years I've been with him, and it's like a father son relationship, like almost the same as Wonderboy and Coach T. Um, we just have that relationship, and I know that if anything went wrong, Coach T would have my back.
I mean, that's what you want in your corner when you're going to war, right? And sort of that's why I was curious to get your thoughts on that. On the on the topic of training, right? You said it was the longest training camp you've had, right? Or that you were gonna have. You know, was that by design? And also, how are you feeling now about halfway through it, physically, mentally? How do you feel? And you know, what was the thought process behind going under the longest training camp of your life for this fight?
Um, so it wasn't by design; it's just the way UFC works. And so I kicked it off probably a week or two early. But we kind of wanted to you know, just roll into that, and I want to be the best shape I could be for him during his peak parts. Um, so it's been good. They just switched my opponent last night, so I've got a new opponent. So that part is tricky because you prepare for a person in a certain way that they fight a certain style, and then you get somebody who's completely new, completely different. Um,
And you said for your
and
last fight that the
so
problem was that it was tough to
now it's like I got 4 weeks to switch it up, and
right.
well, I'm sorry, I think I got bad service. What was the question?
Yeah, there might be a little bit of a delay, man. It's all right. No worries. We're on separate parts of the country, so I get it. I was gonna say that the sort of something that stuck out to you in the last fight was the fact that you didn't have enough time to prepare. It seemed like this fight that was gonna be the case, but now that's no longer the case. So how do you feel about that?
So if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I actually like a 4 to 5 week training camp. So now I look at it as that was a pre-camp, and then I'm entering into the training camp this week, a
Yeah.
new training camp. So it's a new mindset I have to get. It's a new opponent. Definitely like the nerves and anxiety, like they definitely play a role. And I'm like, okay, it's a different guy. It's a different. I'm going through all of the stages of catastrophizing and getting over it. And but it'll be good. I'm actually heading Sunday. I'm gonna head to Austin and go train with Danaher and all of those guys. Um, so I'm gonna get a lot of grappling in with my buddy Joe, who's there at New Wave, and a few of the other big names. And then my buddy Gino, he's a Penn State wrestler. He's gonna be in Austin as well, and his uh, uh, college roommate Jason Nolf will. So I'm going to get like some of the top wrestling all next week,
Good.
and jujitsu. So it'll be good. It's just going to change, the focus of the fight. Like I was wanting to stand and strike against Santos, but this guy, I think I'm going to just try to grapple him and see, what he has on the ground, because I don't think he's really grappled anybody.
You know, it kind of throws a wrench in this because I'll be completely honest. I was confused because it said on one website that you were fighting, The person who were you supposed to fight before? Now I'm all mixed up.
I was supposed to fight Gabriel Santos.
Right, Gabriel Santos, and then it
They
says on
told
another
me Wednesday
website.
night.
Yeah, it says on
Yeah,
another website that you're now fighting Gene Silva. So when I was sort of like prepping to talk to you, I was like, well, who the hell is this guy fighting? Because I was looking at this stuff last night. So Gene Silva is who you're fighting next, right? I don't know if that was confirmed by the UFC because it's not on the website yet, but
yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
says
So
on
a
Tapology.
contract, new contract's been signed. It all like literally Gabriel Santos fell out, and then they got me a new opponent
Right.
that night.
Yeah.
So it fell out Tuesday night. I had a new opponent Tuesday night. Paper signed, everything Wednesday.
And to be fair, I didn't know who you were still fighting again. I thought it would probably be Santos, given the UFC website said that. So, I mean, as far as Gene Silva, have you had any chance to sort of take a look at him, what he likes to do, his style?
Literally,
Have you had any chance?
I can watch, and that's his Contender Series fight. So I'm going off of that, and it looks like he's a really dynamic, heavy hitter, striker. But he's never been like, and or at least from what I've seen online. So that's why I switched it up, and I'm heading out to Austin this weekend. After 296, I'm getting on a plane to Austin, and I'm going to spend next week training with all of them.
Is this something you're familiar with? Like, has
So
this happened a number of times to you, or happened at least once before, as far as the switching of opponents in the middle of a camp when you've already been preparing for a guy? Because this isn't
so many
last minute
times,
per se.
so many
This is
times.
kind of midway through camp. You got to switch, right?
Yeah, I've never had it like with this much time. I don't think. Usually for me, it's like 2 weeks out, a week out. Where it'll be a switch of an opponent. So it'll be interesting. It's definitely new for me.
Few more questions, man. We don't want to take up too much of your time. Looks like you're in
Yeah,
transport
hold
as we
on one
speak.
sec.
Go ahead.
I've gotta get into the PI. One sec.
Yeah, no worries, man. We're almost done here anyway, so we're not gonna take up too much
Yeah,
time.
give me one sec. Sorry.
No worries, bro. How's the weather out there?
It's cold.
Is it?
I'm here for an appointment, Westin Wilson.
Got the live check-in.
I have 1 o'clock with Brett. Have an interview? No, I'm a fighter. Westin Wilson. Westin. Yes, sir. Thank you.
No, Weston, I got to
Sorry about
thank you for that, because I never seen a fighter sort of check into the PI like that. So thank you for sort of showing me that process. Random, but you know what? It was worth something. Few more questions, man. You've been getting you've been rattling off the submission wins in like the last 4 or 5 fights. Is that a possibility that you get this guy out of there via submission? Because with you, it seems like it always is.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really wanted to strike with Santos, and I thought he was a good stylistic matchup striking wise. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
I almost don't know what to ask you.
with Silva, everything I saw was he prefers a strike, and he likes to he's really dynamic, really athletic, and so I figure if you're somebody who likes to strike, why not go to the ground and test your ground skills? Because I think I have an advantage there, and so hopefully I can exploit that advantage.
Yeah, man. And it looks like you're about to get into that PI. So let's wrap it up here. I have one more question. This, regardless of all the chaos and everything that's been going on, this is still going to be your second time now going into a UFC fight. For me, at least, I don't know about you. Anytime you do something the second time, it's far easier than the first time, like infinitely easier, because I'm not saying the fight's going to be easier, but the process, because you know what to expect now, more or less. You made the walk. There's going to be your second time making the walk, second time on the big stage, second time in the UFC. How does it feel? Are you more comfortable now knowing that it's not your debut anymore? Is it more comforting?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think it'll be a little bit more like I know the process. I know
There it
like
is.
what happens and how to visualize it.
Yeah.
So I think it'll, in that regard, it'll be easier. I think in terms of the fight, well, shoot, I think the fight might be almost the same. I think it'll be a very similar fight
Sure.
than Brito. So I expect it to be, that regard will be the same. But in terms of like the weight cut and everything else, I think it'll be the same.
Thank you so much for the time. Just want to let the people know you are fighting Gene Silva January 13th, right? It was recently changed last night, so I'm sure there's a little bit of confusion there. That's the fight, guys. Check that one out. I'm sure it'll be fun, just like the previous matchup would have been fun. And Westin, thanks for joining us, bro.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man.